Did you know that just a few small habits can keep your car's cooling system running almost forever? Many people lose thousands of dollars because of an overheated engine, when the root cause often comes down to simple details they overlooked. This video will show you 8 highly effective tips, seemingly minor things that can extend the life of your radiator, protect your engine, and save you money on repairs. If you want your car to stay cool and reliable like it was on day 1, don't miss this. Like and subscribe to the channel if this video helps you. 1. Replace the thermostat every 4 to 5 years. The thermostat, or thermostatic valve, is a small but critical component in the cooling system. Many people only notice it when their car starts smoking, the coolant boils, or the temperature gauge spikes abnormally high, and by then, it's often too late. A part that costs just a few dozen dollars can, if faulty, lead to thousands of dollars in engine overhaul costs. Simply put, the thermostat acts like a gatekeeper for the coolant flow. When the engine is cold, it stays closed to prevent coolant from passing through the radiator, helping the engine warm up faster and reach optimal performance. Once the engine hits the right temperature, the valve opens to allow coolant to circulate, carrying heat away. Over time, however, the wax inside degrades, metal parts wear out, or debris builds up, causing the thermostat to get stuck, sometimes failing to open, sometimes failing to close. If it gets stuck closed, the coolant flow stops entirely, and heat can't escape. Within minutes, the temperature gauge shoots to H, and then, boom, blown gasket, cracked cylinder head, or fried engine. The problem is that most drivers never check the thermostat. It's tucked deep in the system, easily ignored, so issues often go unnoticed until overheating occurs. That's why savvy car owners replace the thermostat every 4 or 5 years as a small insurance policy for their engine. A genuine OEM thermostat costs about $25 to $30, but it can save you thousands in engine repairs. As for those cheap $5 thermostats flooding online markets, you're gambling with your engine. Plenty of cases show these low-cost thermostats jamming shut on the highway, stopping coolant flow, overheating the engine, and leaving it dead on the road, resulting in a $3,000 engine overhaul. Saving a few bucks but losing your car, not worth it. 2. Check and replace the radiator cap when it's worn. It might sound trivial, but the radiator cap is one of the key components that determines whether your car's coolant will boil over. Seriously, a faulty $10 cap can cause the cooling system to lose pressure, leading to boiling coolant, spilled fluid, and an engine enduring hundreds of degrees of unnecessary heat. Many people assume that as long as there's coolant in the radiator, everything's fine, but they don't realize that most overheating issues start with this little cap. The radiator cap's job is to maintain pressure in the cooling system. As the engine heats up, the coolant expands, creating high pressure. The cap seals tightly, keeping the pressure stable at 13 to 16 psi, depending on the car. This raises the coolant's boiling point above 250 degrees Celsius, allowing the system to work efficiently without boiling over. When the engine cools, the cap's secondary valve opens, drawing coolant back from the overflow tank into the radiator. It works quietly every day, but if the internal spring weakens, the rubber seal cracks, or the plastic retainer wears out, the system loses pressure, the coolant boils faster, and the car gradually overheats without you knowing why. Many people take their car to the shop, replacing fans, sensors, or even the radiator itself, while overlooking this small detail. Meanwhile, simply replacing the cap solves the problem entirely. For some Japanese cars like Toyota or Honda, the radiator cap often uses plastic and soft rubber, which, after years of hot-cold cycles, sees its spring weaken and seal harden, losing elasticity. The result? Coolant slowly leaks out around the cap, leaving white, salt-like residue, a clear sign it's time to replace it. Checking the cap is super simple. Wait for the engine to cool, remove the cap, and inspect the rubber seal for cracks or peeling. Check if the spring still feels firm. If you squeeze it and it doesn't feel tight or the rubber looks hardened, replace it immediately. Don't hesitate. And make sure to choose a cap with the correct pressure rating for your car, like 1.1 bar or 1.3 bar. Even a slight mismatch can throw off the cooling system's pressure, affecting the entire setup. 3. Maintain rubber hoses, tubes, and gaskets with a protective solution. If one day you pop the hood and notice cracked rubber hoses or hardened gaskets around the radiator, it's not just a sign of age. It's a warning that your cooling system is getting old. The danger is that a single burst hose on the road can spray out all your coolant in seconds. The temperature gauge will shoot into the red zone, and in less than 2 minutes, your engine could be completely fried, all because of a few aging rubber parts you didn't notice. In reality, the engine bay often reaches temperatures of 200 to 250 degree Fahrenheit. Rubber hoses and gaskets around the radiator, overflow tank, or pipe necks endure constant pressure, heat, oil, and chemicals. Over time, they lose elasticity, become soft and mushy, then dry out and crack. Even a tiny tear can cause coolant to leak, the system to lose pressure, and the engine to overheat instantly. That's why car-savvy folks make it a habit to maintain rubber hoses and gaskets regularly with a dedicated solution. In the US, many mechanics use rubber conditioners or seal rejuvenators, products designed to restore rubber, keeping it moist, soft, and crack-free. It's easy to use. Pour the solution into a spray bottle, like Windex, mist it evenly over rubber hoses, radiator necks, overflow tank caps, fan belts, or any rubber components, then wipe gently with a clean cloth. The conditioner soaks into the surface, keeping the rubber soft and durable. Doing this every 2 to 3 months is enough. If you don't have a dedicated product, you can use a silicone rubber conditioner. Just make sure it's free of mineral oil, as mineral oil will make rubber deteriorate faster. Never use WD-40 or rust removers as they dry out rubber, causing it to shrink and crack more quickly. A small tip: after washing the engine bay, wait for it to dry before applying the conditioner, as that's when rubber is most prone to losing moisture. Don't overlook less obvious spots like headlight gaskets, overflow tank caps, or coolant pipe necks. Keeping them soft and sealed means keeping the entire cooling system stable, leak-free, and safe from overheating. 4. Clean the radiator and condenser. One of the most common reasons a car runs hot, even when the coolant is full and the fan is working, is a radiator or condenser clogged with dust, mud, or dead bugs. It sounds minor, but this is an issue nearly 80% of drivers face, especially in summer. They notice the temperature gauge creeping up slightly, blame it on the weather, and don't realize the radiator is slowly suffocating. Think of it this way. The radiator acts like the engine's lungs. If air can't flow through the cooling fins, the heat inside can't escape. When you drive long distances, especially in dusty areas or where bugs are common, hundreds of tiny dust particles, dried leaves, and insect remains get sucked into the radiator's surface. At first, it looks clean, but after a few months, that debris hardens into a thick film, blocking airflow almost completely. The result? Heat gets trapped, the fan works harder, and the engine gets hotter and hotter. What's noteworthy is that many people clean only the radiator and forget the condenser in front of it. In most modern cars, the air conditioning condenser sits right in front of the radiator, so it catches all the dirt and bugs first. When it gets clogged, air can't pass through, weakening both the cooling system and the air conditioning. You'll notice the car running hot and the AC losing its chill. 2 problems at once, all because of a thin layer of unnoticed grime. The fix is incredibly simple. Clean the radiator and condenser regularly. If you have space and a medium pressure water hose, spray directly into the cooling fins, keeping a distance of about 1 to 2 feet to avoid bending the aluminum fins. If dirt has baked on and hardened, you may need to take it to a shop or use a high-pressure washer. A quick tip: check every few months, especially in summer or after long trips. Don't forget to remove the front grille if your car has one, as dried leaves, plastic bags, or small debris often get trapped between the grill and the radiator. Like this video to help more people see this information. 5. Check the cooling fan's operation. Many people focus only on the radiator and coolant, overlooking another unsung hero of the cooling system, the cooling fan. This component pulls air through the radiator to dissipate heat, especially when the car is moving slowly or idling for long periods. If just one fan stops working, you might notice the temperature gauge creeping up, then suddenly jumping past the safe zone without knowing why. Sadly, many drivers only realize there's an issue when the engine is already red hot and smoking. In reality, the cooling fan operates based on two conditions: coolant temperature and the air conditioning system. When you turn on the AC, both fans, if your car has two, should kick on. One fan cools the radiator, while the other cools the condenser. This is the easiest way to check. Start the engine, set the AC to its coldest setting, then pop the hood and observe. If both fans are spinning steadily, with strong airflow and no shaking or strange noises, everything's fine. But if only one fan is working, or a fan spins weakly, or it's shaking heavily, that's a sign you need to check it immediately. A common issue is one of the two fan motors burning out, but drivers don't notice because the car stays cool at high speeds. The problem shows up when you're stuck in traffic, idling at a stoplight, or running the AC for a long time. Without natural airflow, the fan takes on the full cooling duty, and if one isn't working, the temperature climbs fast. In many cases, just a few minutes at a stoplight can push the gauge into the red, putting immense pressure on the head gasket. Some newer cars use electric fans controlled by temperature sensors and the ECU, so if the sensor fails, the fan won't run. Older cars use a thermal switch attached to the radiator or engine block. Regardless of the type, you should check the fan's operation at least every few months. Don't wait until the car overheats to open the hood. 6. Replace coolant on schedule. Many people think coolant just needs to be topped off, and few remember it needs to be replaced periodically. But the truth is that green, red, or orange liquid in your radiator doesn't last forever. After a few years, the anti-rust and anti-corrosion additives break down completely, leaving a diluted mixture that forms scale, clogs the system, and corrodes metal parts. When that happens, no matter how much you top it off, the car will heat up faster, and the radiator will wear out sooner. Coolant doesn't just regulate temperature, it's a shield for the entire system: the radiator, water pump, hoses, thermostat, and even the head gasket. Once the additives degrade, the coolant starts corroding aluminum, forming small-scale deposits that float in the system. These deposits gradually stick to the inner walls of hoses, narrowing the coolant's flow path and sharply reducing cooling efficiency. One day, you'll notice the temperature gauge climbing, the fan running full blast, but the car still feels scorching hot, a clear sign the system is deteriorating. Each car has different recommendations. For example, newer Toyotas may go up to 7 years or 150,000 miles before needing a coolant change, while other cars require it every 3 to 5 years. The key is knowing the type of coolant your car uses. Some are long life, others super long life, and some are temporary for older vehicles. Don't mix them randomly, as each brand has its own formula. Mixing incompatible coolants can cause additives to react, creating foam and deposits that clog the radiator faster. Another common mistake is topping off without draining the old coolant. That's like replacing only half the blood in your body. The old, dirty fluid stays, carrying scale and continuing to harm the fresh coolant. The right way is to drain the entire system, flush it with distilled water or a dedicated cleaning solution, then refill it with new coolant. Replacing coolant not only stabilizes temperature, but also extends the life of the water pump and thermostat. For just a few $dozen, you avoid the risk of a cracked radiator, blown gasket, or fried engine, repairs that could cost thousands. 7. Avoid flushing aluminum radiators. Replace them when clogged. Back in the day, Copper or brass radiators could be cleaned easily. Mechanics would remove them, pour in a mild cleaning solution, and all the debris would wash away, leaving the radiator working like new. But modern cars mostly use aluminum and plastic radiators, which are lighter and cheaper, but much harder to clean. The internal coolant tubes are thin and tiny like toothpicks, and even a small amount of mineral scale or oxidation can block the flow. If you try to flush them with a cleaning solution, the debris doesn't disappear. It often gets pushed deeper, making the clog worse. Many people believe they can buy a bottle of radiator flush, pour it in, run the engine for a few minutes, and drain it to get a clean radiator. In reality, this only cleans the surface, while debris inside the tiny tube stays stuck, eventually forming a solid blockage. The system loses pressure, the water pump works over time, the engine runs hotter, and cooling efficiency drops significantly. Signs of a clogged radiator are easy to spot. The engine temperature rises abnormally. The fan runs constantly, but the car stays hot, and when you touch the radiator, some areas feel hot and others cold, showing uneven coolant flow. In these cases, replacing the radiator is the safest choice. Luckily, aluminum radiators aren't too expensive anymore. A new one costs about $100 to $150, while keeping a clogged radiator could lead to a cracked cylinder head or blown gasket, costing thousands to fix. When replacing, choose a radiator from a reputable brand with the same size and specs as the original. 8. Use a thermal gun to check the radiator. One of the fastest and most accurate ways to check if your radiator is healthy is by using a thermal gun. These devices are now widely available, costing just $20 or $30, but they can spot issues that the naked eye can't see. For the average driver, this is a simple yet incredibly valuable tool, as it can pinpoint exactly where a radiator is clogged without disassembling anything. The concept is straightforward. When the engine runs, coolant flows from the engine to the radiator through tiny tubes, gets cooled by the fan, and returns. In a healthy radiator, the entire surface has a relatively even temperature. The top is usually slightly hotter, and the bottom is cooler after being cooled. But if one area is significantly cooler than the rest, that's not a good sign. It means coolant isn't flowing there, indicating a partial or full blockage in the radiator. Checking is simple. After driving for about 10 to 15 minutes, pop the hood and use the thermal gun to scan different areas of the radiator's surface. If the temperature difference between sections is more than 20 degrees, you can be sure the radiator is clogged. And when it's clogged, flushing or cleaning, it rarely helps, as the tiny internal tubes are too small for cleaning solutions to pass through effectively. What's interesting is that many people discover why their car is overheating using this method. Some thought it was a faulty water pump, others suspected the thermostat, and they spent hundreds at the shop for diagnostics, only to find a partially clogged radiator. A quick scan with a small thermal gun saved them from a massive engine repair bill. A small tip: you can use a thermal gun not just for the radiator, but also to check other parts, like brake rotors, spark plugs, or even the temperature of fans and wiring if you suspect a short circuit. It's an incredibly handy tool for any DIY car enthusiast's garage. Keeping your cooling system healthy doesn't require advanced skills. Just replace parts on time, check regularly, and don't overlook small details like the thermostat, radiator cap, or cooling fan. Each simple step today can save you thousands in engine repairs down the road. If you found these tips helpful, please hit the like button and share to help more people protect their cars better.